So 5 years ago this month, I got a call from the Katie Couric show. And the producers there wanted to screen me to see if I would be a suitable candidate to bring on stage to be interviewed by Katie herself. They had 3 final questions for me. Do you want children? Yes. Do you go to church? Yes. Have you been sexually abused? No. You see, I'm a freelance writer, and I had written an essay called Does My Virginity Have a Shelf Life? That was published in the New York Times and went viral. And one of the Katie Couric producers read it and thought, this would make an interesting episode of late in life virginity. I was 36 at the time, and 3 weeks later, I was sitting side by side with Katie Couric as she interviewed me on my virginity. She asked me, the usual questions like, how do guys respond when you tell them, and what are you waiting for, and have guys pressured you? And then she turned a question on me that I had actually posed during the screening process. And that was, does this define you? Has virginity become your identity? And I thought for a minute. I'm a teacher, I'm a writer, I'm an endurance runner, I'm a friend, I'm a daughter. Whether I'm having lots of sex or no sex shouldn't define me, right? So during the commercial break, she turned to me off camera and she said, you just need to have sex. She said, everybody here at the studio thinks that you have fairy tale princess syndrome, and you're just waiting for your knight in shining armor to sweep you off your feet. And I was gutted, right, to have Katie Couric identify my virginity, which I valued, as something that was related to a syndrome. So following the show, after the interview, where does a girl who's a virgin take her mother in New York City who's just been interviewed? Where else but the best orgasm scene in Hollywood? The one, I'll have what she's having. So we went to Kat's Deli, and I noticed on the wall that Katie Couric's picture was up there with a bunch of other celebrities, and I told our waiter, I just got interviewed by Katie Couric about my virginity. And he's like, are you a professional virgin? Because, Katie Couric interviews professionals, experts. So I had to think, what would a virgin's resume look like? Would it be empty? Is the act of being a virgin doing nothing? And what would a virgin's job description look like? And really, that kind of depends on, individual opinion. I went to even medical experts have their differing opinions on defining virginity. I went to get an STD test, and yes, even virgins go and get STD tests. And one of the woman asked me, when's the last time you had sex? And I said, I haven't. And she stared at her computer screen and she said, have you had a penis in your vagina? I said, no. And then she said, still staring at her computer, have you had a penis in your anus? And I said, no. And thank God she stopped there. But I guess that was enough, for her. She had her definition. And then there were the trolls that followed, after the New York Times essay, and they sure did give me a lot of advice. And they gave me a dose of what today's culture thinks of a late-in-life virgin. Somebody who's brainwashed by religion, perhaps unattractive, uncomfortable with her body, selfish, chained by patriarchal rules, certainly a prude, And, I thought in today's society, a liberated woman could have sex with whoever and whenever she wanted. And in, early Greek tragedies, some virgins were despised because their erotic energy was considered distractive and thus disruptive and destructive. And I had a lesbian friend at work tell me, if you were a lesbian, you wouldn't be a virgin. Another friend told me on a bike ride, if you're having lots of orgasms, you're not a virgin anymore. And I was having plenty of orgasms. Just because I'm not having sexual intercourse, didn't change that. And so I started wondering, maybe I wasn't still a virgin, and maybe I was like this teetotaler sommelier I'd met who just like sipped and swished and spit their fine wine and never swallowed. And I had dated, I've dated over 100 men. I've been intimate with over 50 men. I enjoyed being with different men and learning from them. And it wasn't like I was trying to be a tease. But eventually I realized that I got off on the habit of waiting. And I was addicted to pursuing unavailable men because that would continue this prolonged anticipation. And I could continue living the same story. Identities can become consuming. Maybe you've been a teacher for 20 years. How can you possibly change now? And maybe your doctors told you that you'll never run again. Does that mean you can't be a runner? Maybe you've never eaten meat in your whole life. Can you start now? Maybe are you still going to wear that kilt even after 23andMe has told you that you're 60% Russian and only 10% Scottish? And maybe you've been married for 18 years and you got divorced. How are you possibly going to get into a new relationship? I was married to virginity for 40 years until I met him. And it is damn hard to change an identity that you value and whose patterns make you feel safe, even if it makes you feel lonely. So sometimes it's easier to follow the patterns and not question who we become and who we are. So who am I now? And what story defines you?